So Dr. Hetzel, if you would just introduce yourself, say a little bit about what you do with UK, where you're from, all of that fun stuff.
Sure. So as this is for people in the LLP, but they could be any background, not necessarily a music major, correct? Okay. So I am, as she said, I'm Lori Hetzel, and I am in my 26th year at UK. This was my first collegiate job coming from grad school, which was Michigan State. Prior to that, I did my master's in Kansas City with a person by the name of Eve Ely, who was one of a very popular All-State person, very nurturing, supportive environment. So that was a good fit for me. And then prior to that is I taught high school in rural Wisconsin, and that's where I'm originally from. Did my undergrad in music ed. I actually did voice and piano. I'm embarrassed to say that now, though, because I can barely play to save my life, except for parts. And yeah, so I grew up in Wisconsin. I'm the youngest of five, which is why I can be a snot sometimes. And and yeah, I enjoyed my high school teaching very much. I plan to get my master's just to, I wanted, to be better and learn more. I was eager to learn more. I was kind of like someone else on the screen, very much a sponge. And I love school and love to learn. But I had no intention to do anything but teach high school. In fact, I wanted to have the best high school choir in the state of Wisconsin, which was my goal, and be able to take a high school choir to conventions and do things like that. But it wasn't until I did graduate work that professors said, you should think about getting a doctorate degree. Otherwise, that had never crossed my mind. In fact, sometimes ignorance is bliss, because then you can't be too nervous about things because you really don't know what you're getting into anyway. Does that work?
Fair enough. Yeah, that was great. So I'm just going to run through a quick list of questions, and then Devin, if you have any other questions, you're more than welcome to ask. So Dr. Hetzel, as a child, what was your dream job? I guess if it was different than having the best high school choir in Wisconsin, if you had another one.
I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. I was always playing school teacher. I was always trying to organize and set things up, even though I was the youngest. I would play with the siblings that would allow me to. Later on, that it was going to be music.
Well, awesome. So you already gave your background and your educational experience. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
I don't think so.
Okay, fair enough. So when you were starting your career, I guess you answered this as well, but when you were starting your career, did you expect to be in the current position that you have now?
I wanted to get my master's to, just to learn more, to fill in holes, to do a better job in certain areas that I didn't have a great background in. And like one hole I could see in my undergrad was the we did not have the, like you guys have the 2 classes, and I know you complain about it, but I can see that as a huge benefit. We had a small class, short class that was, crammed in, I don't even know how many weeks, but it wasn't a full semester. And it certainly wasn't enough for all the languages. We covered some in our lessons like you would, but that was a definite hole. And I always felt behind my peers in graduate school that had more attention to an actual diction class. So when I was looking for my master's, it was definitely to fill those holes. I also wanted to work on conducting, because that wasn't, my undergrad was big in music ed, but conducting was not nearly as important as rehearsal techniques. Now that I felt really good about, like the choral methods, rehearsal techniques. I felt like I got a really good had a great professor, great mentor, and somebody I turned to when I was teaching, and continued to call to come and work with my students. And but conducting was not as important. So I was looking for that in a master's program as well. But really, that's where I thought things would end as far as higher education. And again, it was just to go back to teach, not go back to the same job. I wasn't holding my job or anything. I wanted to be in a larger area and not live in a small town my whole life, and to be able to have, be in a bigger school. Although my job that I had starting out was really perfect for me. I had supportive administrators, and they'd stop by and they'd sing with the guys, and just really really helped me and mentored me when I had no clue what I was doing. Because I started mid-year, so I was a December grad, and then just started right away in January. Somebody was on a leave for actually vocal nodules, and so I thought it would be temporary, but it turned into she didn't come back because of her vocal issues. But I was really thrown in. I remember having I think I had like 8 or 9 rehearsals before my first concert. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just turning pages, like, okay, I'll see you at the end of this piece, because I'm not sure what's going on. But I didn't have time to be too nervous, because they were in the middle of the school year, and I had to get them to the end of the school year. So in some ways that was probably better.
Administrator singing with the guys. That's like the dream right there. That's awesome.
Yep,
So
my
as
middle school principal actually sang in his college choir. So he was, very supportive.
That's awesome. So as Devin and I both know, you wear many, many hats. So you can either talk about pre-COVID or now. What does a typical day look like for you in your position?
Sure. So it's actually pretty similar. Not last spring. I was thinking about last spring, how, this time of year, how everybody was scrambling to figure out what in the world we were going to do to get through to the end of the year. But I tend to do more of my administrative part of the job in the morning, or try to. So that's when I spend my time in 105. And so I'm in charge of like room assignments and the schedule. So if someone needs a room for a small ensemble this time of year, or recording for grad audition or something like that, that's what I would be helping people with now. That's the more pleasant part of the job. The unpleasant part is I have to be involved if there's a conflict between student and professor, or student and TA, or sometimes if a colleague is not following, the rules of the university, I have to be involved in that as well. Dr. Pelkey and I try to do all those important things together, so there's always more than one person in the room. And I know that's important for what you do too as well, that it doesn't become a he said, she said thing, and that there's an extra set of ears, which is crucial. So that's that's the not as a fun part of the job. But sometimes even that way, you help a student that is screwed up, but they learn later on that, yes, I am glad I got caught, because now I got the help that I needed, or whatever the case may be. So that's mornings, and then the afternoon I try to go back to Wessel's, because that's where I can do more score study. I don't have a piano in the other office, so I like to work on my scores and look at my music, and I get distracted just like you guys about looking at new music now with all the websites from the publishers. It's just so easy and so fun, and so it's like, oh, I wonder what this piece is like, or oh, I heard this choir did this piece. So I can go down those same rabbit holes that you guys can go down as well. But that also gives me a chance to interact with the TAs more, which I really enjoy, because we have some just really great TAs, and they're fun, and they have lots of good questions, and they're always wanting to learn too. They're like, watch my gesture for this, and help me with this, and what do you think of that? And I'm like, I think they're very concerned that they do the right thing to all of our UK students. So that gives me a chance to interact with them as well. So yeah, I tried to divide my day so it's not too lopsided one way or the other.
Awesome. Can you talk a little bit about what you do with the UKWC and what that organization is?
Sure. So the UKWC, well, first is my performing ensemble, right? So it's a creative outlet for me, and that's how I looked at it initially. But certainly, it's changed greatly in how I view the ensemble, because I view it more as a sisterhood. I view it as a group of people that should be supporting each other, lifting each other up. There are people just from so many different walks of life that I really value that and treasure that. But with that comes all kinds of heartache and lots of paths that are not so wonderful, and everybody's kind of got their own story, and I don't claim to know everybody's story. There are some people I never really get to know, even in 4 years, but fortunately there are lots of people that I do get to know better, and people that I feel like I can help steer in the right direction of getting the help that they need, or getting them the support system that they need. So it's really grown and changed in the way that I view things. Because coming into this, I thought I would be conducting choirs all the time, and then having one ensemble, I just poured everything I had into the women's choir to help it grow, and not just quantity, but definitely quality. Um, and now it's kind of almost like full circle, not that the quantity or quality I ever want to go, but like with COVID, the silver lining to me is the focus on the literature and focus on what we can learn from the literature, because I don't have to worry about a perfect recording. I'm not concerned about, is this the one I'm going to send to ACDA, or it takes that kind of pressure off. And even like the perfect program, right? I wasn't worried about balancing an opener, a closer, because we were doing recordings. So I looked at it completely different and thought, we're going to dive into some big topics here and learn from our literature, and especially with the celebration of the 19th Amendment and that being celebrated. I thought that was the perfect jumping off place for this year. So that's a big long answer to the women's choir, but I see it as just a group where we can do so much together. And of course, singing is the means. If all we did was talk, I don't, people wouldn't be in there either. We have to sing, but there's such great literature that we can sing, and we can share ideas through the literature. So it's just really grown and developed into, hopefully, when I think of more than a choir, not that being in a choir isn't okay, but I hope that for most people it's more than that it has a added component. I like to say the good part of a sorority. I don't know that much about sororities because my undergrad didn't even have them. But the part that people rave about when they're in their 30s and 40s and 50s, that was special to them. I hope we fill that need for some people that don't participate in the typical Greek life.
Very well said. I also do not participate in the Greek life, so I like that little twist. So if you had to give one piece of advice to a young artist or student from your past experiences, what would that be?
Well, just one is hard because, as a teacher, we like to talk about more than one. But I think it's allowing yourself to be vulnerable and forgiving yourself, knowing that you're going to make mistakes, and knowing that it's going to be okay. And just as the graduates said at masterclass and really stressed, we make mistakes all the time and the students don't care. They don't care that I keep hitting the wrong note on the piano, or because they know that I care about them. And that really stuck with me about the vulnerability part. And that's hard when you're young because you want to be in charge. You want them to know you're the leader. That you're not a pushover and that you have high standards. But at the same time, it's so much more than that. So I think it's giving yourself grace, forgiving yourself, knowing I still believe there's no such thing as a perfect rehearsal. I really don't. There's just always something that could have had a better way to approach something. But I think allowing yourself to be vulnerable, letting the students know how much you care is probably the piece I would go with.
Thank you for that. That was great. Where are we at? Oh, yes. What do you consider to be your most successful career move or movement?
Well, I would say I think staying at UK, committing to UK, like my whole career is going to be here. When I had a chance to go to University of Michigan and had that offer, and was sought out by them, sought out to put my application in. I wasn't even considering looking, and then I thought, I'll just do the interview and see what happens and do the audition. Well, then when I had the offer, I was really faced with a tough decision because it was somewhat closer to home, but it's definitely Midwest, which is has the home feel for me. Winters, which I don't like, so that was not good for them. But Big Ten, or just more of the known, just more of the familiarity, just more of the known. ACDA, that I knew more people, kind of than I did initially at ACDA Southern. But I think then turning that down and saying, I'm here. Dr. J turning down Georgia, saying, I'm here. Now, what are we going to do together to be the best, dynamite choral program that we can have with the two of us, really we're giving our entire careers to one institution, which you actually see a lot of here, but it is not that common. More people move around and there's, that's okay too, if that's good for them. But uprooting my family was not something I was very interested in. And so committing myself to UK and then saying, all right, we're here now. Now let's do it.
Well, we, Devin and I both, I can speak for other people too. We're very glad that you both stayed with UK. So what does no, let me try that again. What role does an artist like yourself play in our society?
Well, for shaping future teachers, I'll take it that route rather than a conductor. But shaping future teachers, I think teachers are essential, right? I mean, now we talk about essential workers, and I feel very strongly about that teachers should be in school and should be teaching. And I get into some arguments with some people that I respect greatly, that are teaching, but that go with the teachers union that say they should be protected. And of course I wanted teachers to be able to be high on the vaccine list as well, but I just see teachers as absolutely essential. And then you take away the arts, from a kid's lives, and ask that they be in Zoom choir and know that that's not fulfilling for them. And just think about what they're missing, not just seniors, but kids that really need that, like where the choir room is their only place where they really feel comfortable and they feel safe and they feel cared for and cared about, and then put them on a screen with 50 other people or whatever. And man, that's so I just I think it's such an honor to be able to teach future educators, and such a great responsibility. And I like I said, I know not everybody agrees with me, and some people think maybe schools still shouldn't be open, but I just feel strongly that schools are essential. And if you're gonna open a restaurant or you're gonna open Walmart, then we need to be in school.
I love that. What encourages or inspires you in your day-to-day job?
Oh, that's easy. The people I get to work with every day, the students. So even if I know that I'm having a tough time, or it's something's not going right or well in my mind with the band search or something, but I know that when I step into a classroom or a rehearsal, that just can turn things completely around. So it's definitely, I think that's how you know that you're meant to teach, is that you draw your energy from the people you get to work with.
Last question. What would you like to do next, and what are your current goals?
Well, that's hard. I mean, I'm pretty much, I think, like I'm in my last decade. So um, I think if I did anything different, you guys won't like this answer, but I would do, it would be hard for me to do full-time administration, because it would be hard for me to give up an ensemble. So I don't know that could I ever see myself doing that. But if there's some way I could still have an ensemble and do something in another part of the university, I would be interested in that in the last little bit of my teaching career. And something definitely student driven, with either student success or um, just maybe something in the president's office. I certainly don't see myself um, I don't see myself doing anything budget wise, but any job that has that piece to it, I'm not interested in that. Um, and I'm not even sure. Like, I've always said no. I never wanted to be the director of the school music. That I like being the associate director, because I'm a team player, so I like having people to bounce ideas off of and work with. So I think if I did more full-time administration, I'd want it to be something completely different, and a different part of the campus, but definitely working with students, student success, or recruiting or retention or something along that lines. Like, I really admire our president of the university. Not, I'm sure not everybody agrees with his decisions and things, but I admire his work ethic and how he does try to take on heavy things and tackle heavy problems and issues, and doesn't run the other way. And sometimes I think that could be interesting, but at other times I think he probably never never sleeps. So
Well, great. Devin, do you have any questions for Dr. Hetzel?
poor Devin.
I owe you like a
Um,
cookie or something, Devin.
no, I kind of have a question on about like the administrative side. What advice would you give to someone who's been a teacher and is thinking about going into administration, but they're not sure about it?
I think probably the best things that you could do would, you could certainly take a class, like a summer class in higher ed and administration, and see if, through that class that you learn more about things that make you go, oh yeah, this sounds really interesting, or no, thank you. But better yet, what I would really recommend is shadowing someone. So speaking of our president, Capilouto, that's makes me sad about COVID, is I had a day, I was going to be able to shadow him for 2 days, which I was really looking forward to, walking with him and seeing what he does on a day-to-day basis and all the, the tough things he has to handle. But I think shadow someone that's doing the job that you might think that you were interested in. Like I shadowed our dean to a dean's meeting where all the deans from all the colleges get to meet with the provost, and that was very interesting to me as well. So yeah, I think shadowing is your quickest way to answer that question.
I do have a question from another student. So they were asking about the process of the rep card. Do you, in your day-to-day score study, like obviously you know how the rep sheets are completed. Do you, when you're sitting in your office, think about those like, okay, this is the key, this is the composer, this is the text information, and then do you sit down and write a list of possible problem areas, or since you've been conducting choirs for a while, do you just kind of like see those problem areas when you're listening to a piece of music? Like, what's your process of score study?
So I mean, I think yes to everything that you said. So the reason we do those rep cards is because that's exactly what you're doing. You're just doing it pretty much on a quicker basis the more you get familiar with it. And then it's not as formal as in writing things down, but like what you said about the problem areas, you use that when you're planning your rehearsals, right? So you're looking at what section am I going to rehearse? What am I going to need to spend the time on? What will they get quickly? What gets paired together? Or what's the quickest way to tackle this tough section? Or, I better not start with this section because it's going to turn people off because they're going to be so lost. When you have a choir of half readers and half non-readers, that's something to consider. Like if I'm planning for chorale, I'd be planning completely different than how I plan for women's choir or men's choir. But so that score study part of looking at that when you make those comments of what do you see on the page, that goes into your rehearsal plan. So that is something you use all the time. Then key center and big picture things like where does it change key center? Does the text change there? Certainly text and translation, that's always written in the bottom of my music or top or wherever I can squish it in for or keywords to translate. And again, I don't share as much of that as I'd like because of rehearsing twice a week, where in an all state, I'll share a lot more of those kinds of things because we usually have more time, especially near the end when they're in good shape and you want to rest their voices and you can take more time to do those things. But yeah, it's funny that you bring up about the rep cards because when I was grading those things, every year I'd call an alum and say, should I ditch this assignment? I'm so tired of grading these things. I don't want to do this. And they'd all say, no, you can't ditch that assignment. Because I've tried so many times like, oh, this is just too cumbersome. This is too big of an assignment. But, everybody says once they get through it that, no, you should not. This is a good exercise in what you're looking at when you look at a piece of music and deciding. Now, many times, of course, we look at things, right? Like I have this, huge list and I have a stack of the stack on my piano is supposed to be the things I'm really going to do soon. But even that gets too large, right? But sometimes it's just not the right time because it doesn't fit with the program. Or maybe there's a piece I want to do so badly that becomes the center point of my program. And then I program around it. So, so even all the things that for rep cards, you sometimes you don't get that far when you're looking at a piece because it's okay, this isn't going to work in this program, but I'm going to put this over here because someday I really want to do this piece.
Thank you for answering that. Devin, do you have any other questions before I ask my last one? Anything? No? Okay, cool. So final question.
Devin, I'm sorry you had to just be the only person.
No, it was fun. I was planning on coming anyways, and then I just so happened that I was the only one here, so it worked out fine.
I'm going to try to not take this personally, Caitlin.
No. I bet sometimes when the weather's really nice, the attendance for these art talks just so no. So last question.
Yeah.
So I know you have conducted various all states. And there was a recent all state where you may or may not have met Jake Renestad. He's my favorite composer. And I just want you to tell me what he's like, honestly. That is my last question.
Sure. That's cute. I wish he could have been there with me. So he's just a ton of energy, right? He's like just quick and kind of the Dr. Arnold energy, just like electric kind of energy. So first you have to get over being really nervous that the composer's in the room and, you know, judging your decisions, right, that you've made, even though, you know, contemporary composers can be pretty specific, but still you want to know, like, does this tempo match this group? What do you want, this faster, slower? You know, what about dynamics here? You know, is he satisfied with that? So you kind of have to get past that, right? But then he was very fun to work with. So he jumped right up on the stage, and we kind of co-conducted the rehearsal. Like he'd say, "We'll start him here," and then he'd give feedback, and then I would, you know, take it and we'd take it again. He also worked with the instrumentalist, which is really nice because you know, I think it was a violinist was coming from the All-State Orchestra, and he was fantastic, but still he was very specific about articulation that he wanted, and that was nice, you know, to have him there. But again, it's nerve-wracking, right? You have to get over that, but then it's fun, and I highly suggest commissioning something so you can have a composer come in and work with the group. So of course the young women, they loved him. You know, he had skinny jeans on, and you know, was dressed fun, and they just ate, you know, hung on to his every word, and that was fun. And so yeah, it was just a neat experience. But I think I would just sum him up with just great energy, positive energy, and he never was negative or you know, judging you know, any decision made. It was always in a positive light.
Wonderful.
You'll meet him. You'll meet him.
Well, okay, he followed me on Instagram because I've done multiple of his virtual choirs, and when that day happened over COVID, I literally fainted. I kid you not. I'm such a like geek for him. Anyways,
So he did virtual choirs, and you did that with him?
yeah, so he I'm trying to think of what the piece was called. He's only done one, and it was a premiere of like a As Long as We Are Here, I think is the name. Really pretty. But yeah, it was such a cool experience.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it was really awesome. But anyway, thank you so much for watching and for Dr. Hetzel participating. And Devin, I owe you a hot chocolate on me. Yeah, my brain is dead. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks again. So sorry about the Zoom.
Again about the delay, and thanks
Oh
for.
no, it's all good. No worries. But yeah, thank you again, Dr. Hetzel.
Sure, no problem. Thanks, Caitlin. Bye-bye. Good night.